Hey singers! I'm Sara Lieb, this is singingtv.com, and together you and I, we are making singing simple. We are making the internet's easiest to understand voice lessons. And I've had a couple questions lately, these specifically from 007 Gentle Diva and from Tuva M, or Tuvam, I don't know how you pronounce it, about a couple things, basically about voice methods. So last episode I did was about how to find the right voice teacher for you, and this question was about different methods. So there are some voice teachers who are relatively world famous for their methods. Speech level singing and Seth Riggs. Tuvum's question was about CVT, complete vocal technique, Catherine Sadolin, which I'm also familiar with, and there are some others as well. And the one thing that I should say is that most voice teachers, and there's some, varying degrees of this, but for the most part, we teach the same thing. We should be teaching technique and how to sing healthfully. We should be teaching you how to breathe properly. We should then go on to teach you stylistically how to sing. I think a really good voice teacher also includes some elements of theory. So you should, whether with your teacher or not, be learning how to read music and learn your scales, your major and minor scales, how to play them on the piano, how to sing them, how to read, all of that kind of stuff. But perhaps most importantly, it's important for a voice teacher to be teaching you how to breathe properly, how to support your breath, how to sing in appropriate stylistic ways, and things like that. So, what you'll notice is that there are different methods. You hear all about them. So how do you either choose the right method for you or things like that? To answer your question, yes, I've heard of CVT, complete vocal technique. I think there's a lot of really great stuff that Catherine Sadolin has to say and has to teach. Her method does some things that, she just calls things. She has her own way of talking about just different theories and ideas, but I like them a lot. I've read up on her a bit because you're not the first person to ask me about her teaching. I think most of the teaching she does and training she does is in Europe, but she does some really good stuff, especially for people who are singing rock and hard rock. So yeah, absolutely, if you've heard of that, check it out. Most importantly, though, for you to understand is that somebody's method, all a method is a way to brand yourself. So we gotta eat, we gotta work just like everybody else, and voice teachers have to come up with ways to get students. And one of the ways that people do that is by branding themselves and making DVDs or writing books and selling them and things like that. And while I don't think, in my opinion at least, that there's anything wrong with branding oneself, we should be doing it in a way, of course, that's responsible, in a way that makes sense. So if you are looking into either buying a method book or a DVD set or CDs, just make sure that the person from whom you are buying the method and studying with is somebody who's educated, who knows what they're doing. I wouldn't, if I were you, go with the person who's the most famous or charges the most or has taught the most famous people or things like that. That doesn't mean that you will get the best attention. It doesn't mean you will get the best education. It can mean that, but it can also not mean that. So, yeah, I think that there are a lot of great stuff to all those really well-known methods, but really what they are is branding. So I want you to be able to, as a consumer, sort of wipe away and do away with the branding of somebody's methods and really actually see into, is this going to help me? Does this make sense, the way this person is talking about singing in their voice? Do I understand it? And things like that. I have had a couple people say, hey, I'm watching your videos and I really appreciate it because you actually teach us the lesson rather than saying, here's the idea and now buy my book. Which isn't to say that that's bad. I think that there are a lot of ways that we as voice teachers and musicians use and harness the internet and social media for our benefit, and that can also help you as a consumer. But it's important to be able to see through what is trying to sell you something and who is actually doing their job and doing a good job at it. So yeah, I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with checking out different people's vocal methods or techniques. But just know that all that is branding. All that is somebody finding a very specific way to get across the technique that we all use when we sing. So just be aware of that, and I think that you'll be able to do the judging for yourself. Hope that helps. That was for Gentle Diva and Tuba M. If you're looking into, specific methods, I would actually recommend, I would say, actually studying one-on-one with somebody over a method, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong with methods. I think, I've got tons. You can see back here, there's a bunch on the piano too, but there's a bunch of singing method books and stuff as well. So, and in fact, I'm at the beginning stages of writing an improvisation book. So, doesn't mean that you shouldn't buy them. It doesn't mean that they're only branding. Certainly people have a lot of good stuff to say, and there are a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of wisdom in the books out there. So check that out, but just be aware that what you're reading is somebody trying to sell you something, and got to be able to see through sort of the smoke and mirrors and say, is there actually content here that I can learn from? And if there is, go for it. I'm Sara Lieb, this is SingingTV.com. Together you and I are making singing simple, and we're still doing the user competition. I really want to make sure that everybody, I'm getting a lot of comments about how excited they are about the competition, but very few actual people are writing on the Facebook page saying, this is how I entered the competition, this is how I spread the word about Singing TV. So please make sure you do that, and then perhaps you'll get to win a voice lesson. I'm Sara Lieb, Singing TV, together you and I, making singing simple.